Good evening. Welcome to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. The time is 7:32 and we call the meeting to order. Ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I know we're a little light on attendance tonight, but thank you for everyone that did come out. I want to let you know that Wes Pfeiffer was able to contact me, and he is sick today, and so he's doing us a favor and staying home from that standpoint. And then we have another member coming up here shortly here. So John, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. And then the last is that we did receive notification. You should have all seen an email from Rebecca Kung, who has some good things going on in her life that are complicating her commitment to being here at night meetings. So while she's still interested, has her heart in this stuff, she needs to divvy up a little bit of time. So she did bring in a formal resignation. So from here on now, Rebecca will not be on this commission. But I do want to thank her for her time, and hopefully we'll see her around the island, and maybe she can even come back at some point. Moving on, we have the agenda before us. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, can you get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Jameson?
I second
Allen? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Great, thank you, everyone. Next, we would have public comment. If some, public comment is where anyone from the public can come up and talk for 3 minutes about any subject that's specifically not on the agenda. As of right now, we do not have anyone within the audience for public comment, but if we do have someone come in later on, I'd like to, potentially reopen public comment if they have that. So, since there's no one here now, we'll close public comment and move on to the meeting minutes. So again, we have had meeting minutes in the past. Our secretary has done a great job of putting those draft ones together, but we have not been on the air, so we have not been able to take any formal action on those meeting minutes. So I ask that you had a chance to take a look at those meeting minutes and be able to let us know if we have any potential changes on those, and if not, I'd like to have someone entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved.
Jameson and Allen. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Again, thank you so much, Christine, for all of your work on doing the meeting minutes. Next, we have 2 action items. The first being the nomination and election of the BPAC chairperson. So this is for a 1-year term. We need to have a chair if this commission chooses to. We also have a formal vice chair and secretary positions. And so if there's anybody that's interested in running for any of those, they can express their interest. If anyone wants to nominate someone, you can also do that.
Does anybody want to have any discussion prior? Or Mr. Chair, would you allow discussion prior?
Oh, of course.
Is there, obviously, Brian, you're a highly qualified choice. Is there anybody that would also like to be considered for chair?
I will say I have been doing this a while. If there is anyone that's interested, you will not hurt my feelings if you're interested in becoming the chairperson.
Brian, you do too good of a job.
There you go.
Then I move to nominate Brian as chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission.
Support. Second.
Thank you. I'll accept the nomination. Is there any other nominations?
Is the secretary nominative?
I know in the past we have done that, but as of recent, it's just been more appointed.
Do
Want to continue being the secretary?
I'm fine with
Okay.
that, yeah.
Then I move to nominate Christine to be the secretary of BPAC.
I can second. All right, so I guess we can do this within, one full, I mean, we have to take a vote on this, so.
Yep.
I guess, all in favor of myself, Brian Pollock, being the chairperson for the upcoming, year, say aye.
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 Any oppose? Any abstain? I'll abstain. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the confidence. Next action would be the vote on, Christine being secretary for the year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any oppose? Any abstain?
I have to abstain, correct?
You don't have to.
I don't think you do. You could actually vote for yourself.
Okay. I'll abstain.
I did it to keep it interesting. Congratulations, Christine. Thank you. All right. Next item would be about schedule of BPAC meetings. So every year we need to post the meeting, the dates for our meetings. We also have to post the time. This is to be in good standing and good faith for our residents, so that way they can tune in or come down here to Township Hall and be a part of the meetings. So in the years past, we used to meet every month, and then I believe last year we tried doing like every other month. I know that got a little confusing because sometimes we would have information to present and we would meet, other times we wouldn't, and we would basically not meet the month that we're supposed to, and then we kind of got on a different rhythm. So from my personal preference, I would think that I would like to go back to having a meeting every month. And again, if there is nothing to report, well, we can cancel that meeting. But I think it's just easier for everyone's schedules to know that there's always a potential meeting in there, and so to try and not book anything at that time. But
Yeah, I would concur, and I think that I think it would help us build some bureaucratic inertia, right? Like keep us plodding forward on some of our projects are big and lengthy. So even if our meeting is just to come in and be like, yep, we're still doing this, or we're still meeting about that, I think it has some value.
Further discussion?
I support that totally.
Would anyone have a problem with potentially meeting those dates? I know that we have. Okay. As far as a date and time in the past, we've been doing the third Thursday at 7:30. Does that still work for everyone, or is there any proposed changes to that time?
Is there a reason we do 7:30? Just to meet some scheduling requirements and stuff, or?
So, I mean, historically, we've done 7:30, and then it's work. My personal preference is 7:30 because it gives a little time between work and, coming here. So that way, if there's other things I have to do with the family, I can eat dinner, I could, take people places if they needed to. It's just a little extra time. I do understand that it puts the meeting in later into the evening.
Well, I guess this is a younger commission, probably by average, so it makes sense, I guess, that maybe we have a little more going on than some of the other ones, so. I was just curious why it was 7:30. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. I know in the past there was a lot more commissions that met at 7:30, and over, I'd say probably like the last 5 years or so, a lot of them have gone to 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Again, if there's a reason that people would need to go to 7 o'clock, I would be open to that. It just, if all things being equal, I prefer 7:30. Doesn't sound like there's anything opposed to that. As far as the third Thursday, does that work as well?
Yeah, that's good for me.
Okay. Okay, so I know that the way that it will need to be published is we'll have to actually cite those dates. I can't just say the third Thursday.
Yeah.
But I think for the motion, again, rather than just going through every single one, and since I don't have it typed out right now, I think that we can make that action, and then I will just send the information to Brian, so that way he can post it that way.
Yeah, I think from a Robert's rules perspective, the third Thursday of the month is clear. The specific dates, we'll get them published that way, but I don't think you need to formulate the motion that way.
Yeah, and I know that again, the way the instructions I was given is that we are capable of canceling a meeting. We don't have to meet if for some reason there's not a need to. If there's a holiday or something, we can change that meeting. I just think it's good practice to try and stick to the date if possible, and if not, then to provide enough time in order to get people, let people know about a change within the schedule.
Yeah, and in the rare instance of a bicycle and pedestrian emergency, you could call a special meeting. If maybe there was, I don't know, the road is collapsing under one of the bike paths and we need to authorize $15,000 in spending to put a pile of dirt there or something. You could always do that. You don't have to wait till the next meeting. So,
Gotcha. I'm just looking at the calendar real quick just to see if there was a third Thursday that was we knew it was going to be bad.
Thanksgiving maybe.
Yeah. Is that the 23rd? This year.
I think that's the fourth Thursday of that month. I looked at that earlier.
Never know what day Thanksgiving is, so I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, I'm just going to double check right quick. It is the 23rd, so we would have to change that one. Well, you know what? Nope, never mind. Wait, hold on. I'm speaking too soon here. So I think we would meet on the 16th in November, so it should be fine. And in December, that would be the 21st. So again, that's outside of Christmas week. So I think that's good enough for now, just to stay third Thursday. And if something comes up, again, we're pretty flexible on the dates, just as long as we give Brian Friel and the rest of the township enough time in order to say, hey, we're canceling or we're switching. All right, can I entertain a motion? Can I get a...
I move that we approve our meetings on a monthly basis on the third Thursday of the month.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ellen? Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of meeting monthly on the third Thursday of the month at 7:30 p.m., say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda, we have our discussion items. Again, these things do not need to actually have any action today. It's just basically updates. So the first would be about the Water's Edge or Jefferson connector. So for those not familiar, talking about building a sidewalk that would connect from the Meridian Path at Bellevue, down Bellevue, connecting the Country Club and Water's Edge to our bike path system, and then running on the east side of West River up to the West River connector, which would connect you into Grosio Parkway. And from there, there's a concurrent effort happening on the City of Trenton side that would connect from the Free Bridge to Jefferson Avenue. So I know we've had Mary Bowling from the Downriver Link Greenways come in the past and present. We've talked about this, but there's been a lull in activity, and so I just want to let everyone know that we are still considering this. And I believe that we met in December just for a study session, and we talked with Mary and some others, and what we wanted to be able to do is superimpose that sidewalk on an aerial photo, and so that way it'd be a lot easier to communicate exactly where that sidewalk would be and what issues might be, some questions that people might have. So that way we could go to the Community Recreation Commission and then also engage with the country club as well and make sure we're doing our due diligence on public involvement before moving forward and asking the township board to make a resolution in support of the sidewalk.
So, you had said the Jefferson connector, does that also include the Bellevue connector?
Yes. So, I said like Water's Edge / Jefferson connector. So like from the Groseal standpoint, I think like the big thing that we really want to connect to is the Water's Edge. And so I put that in there. It's, it's great as well that we're able to connect to Jefferson, to be more part of the community, to be a part of the, have that linkage to the Iron Bell Trail, to have more, tourism. But I put Water's Edge first just because I view like parochially that's like very beneficial for our residents. So, to get kids and adults alike, to two of our major attractions on the island.
So I just wanted, the Bellevue project and the Jefferson project are all one project, right? It's
Correct.
Not two separate, okay.
It just that from our standpoint, we would be taking action on the part that's within Groseal Township. So,
Okay.
We're looking at Bellevue sidewalk and West River sidewalk.
Okay.
Trenton would be working on the part that's along Groseal Parkway between the Free Bridge and Jefferson.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if the Bellevue section was separate from the West River effort, but.
Yeah.
So where did we land with the aerial, with the graphics?
I know that their consultant was supposed to try and get us the GIS information.
Okay.
I didn't see an email, so I need to check back with Mary to see the progress on that. I thought I asked her like a couple weeks ago and hadn't seen a response, but I will connect again with her this month to make sure that we find out what's going on with that. Because I would like to be able to start preparing presentation material so we can have those conversations with the first with the Community Recreation Commission.
Right. Okay. Oh, and those pipes that they had running along Bellevue, which I thought maybe we could piggyback on some kind of surface maintenance project, they're
Yeah.
actually all being drilled in. So the surface won't be disturbed at all, and we can find no benefit from the work they're doing.
Okay. Okay. Is there any other questions about this project? Hearing none, I will let you know as soon as I find out something from Mary, and we can begin planning for those upcoming meetings. Next item is the Gibraltar Bay Connector. Again, so this is all these, the names are up for grabs, and just it's shorthand for it because again,
I think Gibraltar Bay Connector makes sense.
So this would be moving a fence along the airport property. So that way we are able to take advantage of an existing service road and, do some upgrades to that. So that way it acts as a primitive trail connecting from the Grow Road bike path to the Gibraltar Bay Wildlife Refuge. And so the major cost is moving that fence. We had bids that were brought in, I believe, might have been last summer. But they were much higher, basically double the cost of what our estimates were. And so I know that the township was looking to just hold off on that a little bit and rebid this year, 2023. And so I know that we would like to find out the schedule for that. I don't know.
I talked to Derek maybe, I don't know, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks back, and he said that they would put it out again for rebid to see if we could do any better. But I will follow up with him tomorrow to find out where we are in that RFQ.
Brian, I have a question for you. Once we take a bid, how long does that bid stand before a new bid has to be taken?
I think it would be written into the language, so, usually it's a matter of weeks. But, I don't know what was written into this specific, RFQ.
Okay.
Do you mean like if we you mean if we accept a bid but don't begin the work? I don't know. That's a good question.
No, it's a slow-moving project, and if we have to do things in quick order because of, legal constraints or anything like that, it works against us. So I'm kind of worried about that. We've already did this once, and we're going to have to do it again, and it's not very efficient to do it that way, and especially with the cost of product and the things we need to complete it. So
I think the intent of going out for bids again, though, was hoping to find lower bids.
Yeah. The thought was, not only was there inflation going on, but there's a lot of construction projects all at once, and so there wasn't as many firms that were able to do the work, and if they did want to bid on it, they were putting in higher prices to make it worth their while.
yeah,
So again, the hope is that there would be lower bids this time around, but that is one question that I did ask Jameson is like, can we, what if they do come in higher? Is there some sort of value engineering that can take place so that way we can get those prices, closer to what we were expecting? So maybe it's something where, there's a 10-foot fence. Can we do a 8-foot fence and have some wire above that equals the 10 feet?
Yeah.
And maybe that's cheaper, or the spacing in between posts, or I know they talked about sinking concrete down with that. Would you be able to just put it in without concrete? How would that work? And
So I guess I can talk to Janelle about that. I talked to Derek about it, but he wasn't 100% certain on the fence requirements. Apparently, there's some FAA standards regarding airport fences. However, the fence we're talking about is, I believe it's all wood line. And our airport isn't exactly like an impermeable perimeter, right? Like you can drive your car right on there from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day or whatever it is. So I'll talk to Janelle and see if maybe there's anything we can do in that regard. The only other like added value engineering is we could look at the road repair schedule. I don't know. I can't recall off the top of my head if East River's part of pending projects for FY23. But if it is, at a minimum, we could maybe at least get some area cleared or a wider shoulder, a sharrow. So obviously that doesn't meet the intent of this project, but that would be a plan B, I suppose.
They're not reusing the fence?
I don't know. I don't know why you couldn't.
No, I would imagine that's what the bid included, because
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to disregard the fence that's present.
Yeah, but supposedly the fence has to be 10 feet high.
Yeah, I don't think
with
there's no way to get around that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a certain
because of
diameter of pole and a tensile strength, and
Yeah.
able to withstand direct impact from a dump truck or something. So,
Yeah, it's
Um,
gonna be impossible to get away from that.
yeah, and unfortunately, I think, like you said, we're kind of trapped in a little bit of that red tape there, because even though we can plainly see it's not an impermeable barrier, it is still technically a FAA certified facility. So. But that's going out. That if it hasn't gone out for bid again, it is soon, and I'll follow up on that one.
And if for some reason there's nothing we can do value engineering wise, and the bids are what they are, and there's no thought that it's going to decrease, maybe just we can put it out to the public and say, hey, we're short this amount of money for this project. Is there anyone that's willing to donate some money, or if there's other funding sources that we could find? But I know that's a harder sell than doing value engineering, so prefer to start with the rebid and hopefully fingers crossed that's better, and if not, just look at to see if there's any way we can decrease the costs.
Okay.
And For the record, I believe it was around $70,000 that we had estimated. And again, we're looking at more around like $150,000 total. And we
Yeah.
have about, I think we have $50,000 from the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan through a Ralph Wilson Jr. Legacy Grant. And then we do have, one philanthropic donation from a family that was, covering the difference between that got us up to the $70,000. And then, there was a little bit of extra money in there in order to do improvements that you might need to do in order to have that transition between the bike path and the limestone service road. So hopefully we can get back to those numbers, but if not, see what we can do. Any other questions about that project? Hearing none, go on to say that Bike to School Day will be happening in May. I'm going to look up the exact date right now, but we typically work with Groseal Schools as well as the PAT in order to do a Bike to School Day, just like we do a Walk to School Day in the fall. So we do have some time. The National Day is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. So, we can work back from there. And again, that date isn't in stone. In the past, when it didn't make sense, we did our own date. So, like, I think a lot of times we'll have a rain date set up just in case there's like a terrible storm, or if there's construction going on Meridian, or, another roadway, and it just makes sense to, move it a week forward or a week back, we can do that. But, typically, both Rebecca and Christine have been working on the Bike to School Day. So I'm not sure if Christine has an interest in doing that this year, or if she would, like some help from anybody else along with that. So nothing that needs to be done today, just, just to start thinking about that. It might be good to talk with Joe Porcerelli or others that might have some connections with the police department, and see if we can get any assistance with them this year. I think in the past we've put up signs that state what the date is, so to expect children. Maybe it's like you do it either. Generally probably like Monday before or the week prior. Al, do you remember anything else that we've done for Bike to School Day?
Well, at one time we gave, we handed out things like lights for the bikes, and, as almost as a reward for participating in it. And, our problem is that we, work on this with the schools, and the personnel changes at the schools quite regularly, so we get caught with having to start all over again, and it makes it difficult.
I know Wendy, I think she's been instrumental, like within the partnership within like the last year or so. So we can reach out to her as well. But she's with the PAT.
In the fall, the PAT purchased gift cards to the bakery, and that was, I think they had, I don't know if they had a raffle. Yeah, those were some prize raffle tickets, yeah.
I do think there's great momentum for this, simply because once they start riding their bike to school, the weather's better, and they do it every day after that. So it really gets the momentum going for them.
We should host like a 50K bike ride here, or 100K. Be a cool place for it. I mean, with the half marathon route is 13.1 miles. I don't know, do 8 laps.
Yeah. Maybe after we get the roads paved and.
Yeah, that's true. We would want some less potholes, I suppose.
To go along with the Bike to School Day, I've been talking to the man that did our bicycle safety course. What was it, in 21? And he's willing to do that again. So I don't know. I said we may do it in spring instead of summer. I think it was the middle of summer last time, but maybe a weekend in the spring, maybe around that time.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good turnout considering it was the middle of COVID, so I think we'd have a really good turnout again.
I think one of the things we're looking at is that make sure it didn't conflict with fifth grade camp.
Yeah.
Because I know that, a lot of the fifth graders go to that, and that's, generally around the same time. And that's been it was a little bit of a harder window. I think that might have been why we did the summer that year. But yeah, find out what dates he's available and look at those other dates that conflict, and hopefully we can find something. Thank you for doing that. Couple other things. I know they weren't on the list here, but I did. Derek did send me an email last week and said that he was starting to put together the township budgets and wanted to know if we had any large capital expenses for this year. So we do have our maintenance budget, and typically we do routine maintenance like sweeping the paths of leaves, taking care of the snow. Doing all of the grass trimming along public property with the bike path, but we also do larger capital projects like repaving the bike path, staining, and doing repairs to the bike path bridges and boardwalks. And so it would be good to start thinking about that now. Or maybe get out there with a bike or walk or drive if the weather's bad, and kind of check out some of these areas, and we can report back and see what we might want to do. We do have some funds left over for previous years, so we're not starting. It's we have a little bit more to deal with today. I'm going to try and figure out what that number was.
Where they did the work at the thoroughfare bridge, did they ever properly repair the bike path, or is it still just kind of a lump of gravel?
It's still a lump of gravel, but I believe, and we should probably talk to Derek or anyone else in the township about that, I think generally they'll probably come back in the spring and do more repairs that are long-term if they're going to do them, because most of the asphalt plants are closed for the year.
And to be fair, there's parts of Meridian that are lumps of gravel right now too, so hopefully they repair it all at once. But you're right, there's a big ol', and there actually the bridge on Ferry has I don't know if it's quite what you call a sidewalk, but the curb, which you could ride a bike across, is deteriorating pretty badly right there where it meets with the actual sidewalk.
You said the bridge on Ferry Road?
It's Ferry, yeah.
Okay, so it's not the...
So if you're on Meridian, take a right onto Ferry and head east.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's Ferry right there, right? There's a
Yeah.
bridge right there. It's cement, and the cement's deteriorated. It's almost better for a bike because it's deteriorated. It kind of creates a 45-degree angle instead of a 90-degree curve, but...
Let's say
I don't know if that falls into our purview or not.
There you go.
we should probably connect with Derek and others as well, because I know that it's probably close to 2 years ago now that several of us met with Wayne County about the intersection of Ferry and Meridian, and they're looking at doing improvements to that area because I believe that they need to take care of some of the bridges in that area. So
Okay.
that might be 2023 project, but if it's 2024, that's good to know too. And that way we're not doing something where we're replacing too much and just to have it get ripped up.
Well, maybe we all kind of just do some surveys and come back, figure out what our list looks like.
Yeah. I know in the past we've also, gotten together with CE Reigns and gotten on golf carts and rode the entire pathway and, looked at the condition. So there's a couple different ways that we can go about this, but I definitely want everyone to take a look at it and see what areas I think need to be addressing. And so that would be definitely asphalt, but it could also be vegetation that needs to be cleared. It could be looking at the decks and the bridges and seeing what needs to be done with those. I know we have put off maintenance on the bridge over the thoroughfare canal because we weren't sure how much of that would be replaced when Wayne County was doing their work. So if, I believe, Wes was saying that he heard that it's going to be much less of the bridge that they're actually going to need to take out as part of the road bridge reconstruction. So if that's the case, then that's more maintenance dollars that we will need to apply to that area.
Okay.
But it'd be good to know and look at that timing, and maybe we can go back out for another trail maintenance grant. So just a reminder that we use the Community Foundation's Ralph Wilson Trail Maintenance Grant funding for the Grow Road Bridge down here by Township Hall. And so with that extra funding, we were able to go from standard wood to a composite decking that will last much longer.
Oh, I guess it is composite up here, isn't it?
I believe it's hybrid. I believe like the deck surface is composite. I believe the handrail is composite, but the spindles or the uprights, the vertical pieces are still wood. And that was like value engineering because those pieces, they get less rain on them. There's less like sun exposure on them, and so and they were in good shape already, so it made sense to reuse those. The other item was, talking with our community development director, and he was looking into bike share. And so I told him that we've thought about this in the past and that we want to be very conscientious about how to move forward with something like that. See what's right specifically for Groseal. Be cognizant of the costs involved. So he was just beginning to think about it, but he would like to our input. So I think that at a future meeting or a future study session, we could talk a little bit more about that. Alan, I know you've mentioned in the past that there might be like free bikes from the police department that,
Yes.
again, no one's claimed. We might be able to use those and have a bike share system or a bike rental system that costs much less than if we had a company come in here and do that.
Yeah, it would be cool for Groseal to have like a micro bike economy. I'm sure I'm pipe dreaming a little bit here, but my only concern with like bike share, bike rental, things like that, would be committing to it, spending the money, and then turns out there's just no appetite for it. So I just think we need to do. I'm not sure what we need to do, but we need to make sure we're equipped with the knowledge we need to make good decisions about this. I'm obviously not a bicycle rental expert by any means, so but maybe you guys are.
I don't claim to be an expert, but I've known a few communities that have gone through it, and there's a variety of different ways to do it. And like there's been a variety of ways that people have done over the decades, like starting over at colleges. And again, like the crudest way and like probably like one of the cheapest, and the lowest tech way is just getting bicycles and allowing them to be out there and be in the public domain. But then you can go on the other end where you've got computers basically inside the bikes with GPS, and where they are at all times, that there's a person going out there and recalibrating as far as like putting them at specific stations.
Yeah.
And there's costs involved with that. And so I think it would be good to find out first, what's the goal or the desire, like what niche is the bike share system going to fit? Because we're, at least at right now, mostly a residential community where people, if they want a bike, generally they have access to one. So it's like with a bike share, how would that work? And I think it would be, again, where you would, maybe there's somebody that is visiting or somebody that got dropped off on Macomb Street, like some children or anyone that doesn't have their car with them at the time. Macomb Street's pretty long. You would get dropped off over by the Macomb Commons. Well, hey, you want to go down to the bakery and get some ice cream? Well, that's a 15-minute walk, but it could be a 3-minute bike ride. So like that type of more transit-oriented style movement, transportation-based, could make sense from that standpoint if you have different generators. The other thing could be, again, if you're able to just do it more like a bike rental, where it's like maybe at the airport, you know, at the bed and breakfasts, or at certain locations, there could be, you know, a kiosk where you can, you know, check out a bike.
I wonder if maybe this is something that's worth looking into tying in with the master plan. You know, the DDA master plan and the township one.
I think so.
Because that master plan could potentially generate appetite for this kind of thing, depending on how we position ourselves in the future, as far as development, economics, tourism, or any of those kind of things, you know. If the master plan is completely focused on us remaining a quiet residential community, then, you know, maybe we just put some bikes out there. So,
I think if you were to ask the kids, they would rather have the scooters.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they're cool.
Yeah, the kids would rather have the birds than the
And-
bike.
And they bring their own
Oh, yeah.
benefits and, you know, concerns. And it'd be interesting to see how it's going in Trenton with those, because I know that they were able to
Yeah.
secure some late last year.
Are they powered?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
The good news is so far I'm not seeing a lot of them like in peculiar places. So, you know, like when they first came to Detroit and when they were coming to like a variety of different larger cities across the world, there was a concern about people not really valuing them, and they wind up in ditches or like in, you know, water bodies or like off cliffs and, you know, just where they shouldn't be. But in this case with Trenton, they seem to be pretty, like, I haven't seen them like off in peculiar places. They seem to be lined up along the sidewalks in an area where it's not blocking other people from using the sidewalk. So far it seems like they're doing a pretty good job over there.
I like the scooter idea because I think they'll get used for the novelty.
Yeah, they'll get used a lot more than the bikes will
Yeah.
by the kids. If that's the target audience, you know, I think,
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the bikes, I think most kids have bikes in this community.
I mean, I'd ride an electric scooter up and down Macomb.
Yeah, no,
You know.
so I think it is, if you take them home and charge them, then you get a credit on the next rental.
Oh.
So it's kind of an interesting business model, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so if you charge it, then you get a credit on your next.
And some of those business models with the scooters is that, again, the individual user like pays a fee to, you know, to the company to like use it, but there's no cost to the community.
Yeah, that's why I think it's an easier sell for everybody.
Okay.
So
Just a initial investment, and then it kind of self-replicates from there.
The
Huh?
company's responsible for the product, the unit, you know, so.
So again, it'd be good to just think a little more about, okay, what's our goals for what we're trying to be utilizing either bike share or scooter share for, you know, some of those pitfalls and the pros and cons of each way, and then, you know, looking into the technology, but also the different firms and things that we could do DIY as well.
Is there a liability to the city for injuries? Because those go really fast, and I don't often see people with helmets.
As far as I know, there's no liability specifically to the community, you know, from the use of those. Again, you know,
I think by accepting you waiver liability, you know, like when you sign up for it,
So
you
is
know,
it-
whether that holds up in
But
court
that's
or
a
not.
12-year-old getting on one.
Well, the 12-year-old, I think, can't get on. There's limits, and you have to have a credit card to get onto them
Yeah.
and things
I
like
think
that.
it might be
you-
16 or something.
Yeah, I think you have to be
Yeah.
16 years old.
yeah, I will say though that
Not
there,
that 12-year-olds aren't on them, but.
you know, there are crashes that do happen on them, so not trying to make it sound like it's, you know, the safest thing in the world and like no one ever gets hurt on it. But I do know as well is that since, like Jameson was saying, hey, there's a lot of people that might be interested in scooters. It's like, it's kind of like a new market, and so people that might not get on a bike might get on a scooter, and it's more of a way of creating new allies for more dedicated bicycle infrastructure within a community.
That's true. Yeah, or somebody, you know, you go for a run, you get to the far end of Macomb, you're like, to hell with this, you get a scooter and go home.
Yeah.
You know? So I think there's definitely some utility there.
Mm-hmm. So cool. a subject to talk more about at a future meeting, as well as, maybe bring Ross in here or have a study session.
We could have a long study session on that.
One other thing that Ross did email me late last week is that the DDA is going out for a grant through T-Mobile in order to secure funding for new benches on Macomb Street. I can send you this material that he did give me. It was just a site plan of showing the locations. I can tell you, looking at it, that they will be strategic across the entire Macomb Street, looking at benches, looking at concrete slabs, as well as, trash cans. And again, looking to replace a lot of like the older wooden benches, and you provide some more uniformity, to the site furnishings. So he was looking for a letter of support from BPAC. I told him that, I can't do that on my own, that we need to bring it before the commission. So I will forward this to you, and you can all let me know if you're in favor of this or not, and if you are, then I can write a letter of support.
So I think there's two ways you could parse this. If you, as chair of BPAC, write a letter of support, that's fine. You would just be writing a letter of support as the chair of
Correct.
BPAC. But if you want a letter of support from BPAC, we're going to need to vote.
Mm-hmm.
We can't vote by email.
I can ask him if he wants it one way or the other, but let's say like he's fine with like a letter from the chairperson. What I would do is, state that, we have spoken about it. I'm acting as, chair. This was not a formal action, but,
You could say, as chair, there's a general consensus, or
Yeah.
members agree, I suppose.
and I guess it would probably depend on what his time frame is. Because, we will have a meeting next month, and, we can, if he needs a formal action, we can do it then.
Well, what I was gonna say is we could make an action now,
Okay.
is the other option if you don't think it's too contentious of an issue.
I really don't. The only thing I could think of is that the Downriver Link Greenways also have promoted some standardization and some streetscape furnishings that are available to us. But again, that's nothing that we have to do, and we can say like, hey, we want Macomb Street to be the way that we want it, as opposed to like looking like the same furnishings that are in Flat Rock or downtown Trenton. Again, and they're perfectly cool with that. So I don't think it would be contentious. It's just something to think about.
Okay.
How does everyone else feel about the potentially doing an action today, and then I'll give you the materials, and then afterwards you can let me know if you have concerns about it, and basically say that you'd like to revote on the issue.
So I move to add a resolution to provide a letter of support to DDA in support of their pursuit of a grant for benches.
So I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Last thing that I had on the agenda about discussion topics is about our 2022 accomplishments and 2023 goals. So at the March Township Board meeting, typically that type of information is presented from each commission. And so I'll be looking into that, and I'll probably share that with the draft at our February meeting. I'll try to send that out well in advance, so that way you can have comments on it. But it would be good to just be able to look that over as a commission at our next meeting. So I guess if you have things that you want to be included in there, feel free to send them to me via email, and I'll be sure to include that. So, accomplishments could be like, the Grow Road Bridge, that's something that we could put in there, or the walk to school day, or the safety class. Anything that occurred in the 2020, let's see, would that be 2021, 2022 year? So it's like March through February. And then any goals that you have for the year. So we can put those together, and if for some reason it seems like something that needs further discussing, we can bring that up at our February meeting.
So I do have one, I guess, quick notification. I did talk to Derek about, quite a few things, but our projects, our meetings, things like that. And I think one of the things that always makes your job as chair a little more difficult and steals a little bit of our momentum as a committee is that we don't have any full-time administrative support, right? There's no BPAC clerk sitting downstairs cranking out BPAC stuff. So I kind of just floated it to Derek, like, hey, maybe we could get a couple hours out of somebody a month or a week or something like that to be able to, maintain some records and look into some things for us, a little bit of administrative support. He didn't hate the idea. He said it, was entirely possible, but obviously couldn't commit to anything on a quick conversation in the break room. So I'll follow up with him on that, because I do think, having a little bit of help in that regard would make a difference for us, right? Maybe it's Lori, maybe it's Ross, maybe it's Brittany, somebody down there in community development that can just kind of help us out a little.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because that was something that previous liaison and I were talking about, and started to get a little bit of that way. And then I know that Derek himself took the promotion to be manager of the township, and that got him really busy with stuff. So it's one of those things that I think all of us would like to do, and just got away from us. So thank you for bringing that back up.
Yeah, and I think we're soundly, just because we're not the Community Development Commission doesn't mean we don't fall in community development, right? I mean, we're talking about sidewalks and bike lanes and health and welfare and fitness and things like that. It absolutely makes sense that we're in that department. So I'll pursue that, at least as far as I can get it to go, and give you an update when we get to the end of wherever that road leads. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you wanted to report on from the township board perspective?
No, I mean, there was a bunch of grants this year, which is pretty exciting. So there's going to be a lot of projects in the future. We'll just keep our eyes peeled to see if there's any of them that we could tie into some of the work we're doing. And next month there'll be the budget. Well, there'll be a budget hearing. I shouldn't say hearing. There'll be a budget meeting by members of the board, with the obviously public welcome to it. I would like to see a budget hearing, in which case the public can interact with the board about it. I don't know if I'm going to get that, but if you're at all interested in township budgets, March is a big exciting month of budgeting. So, and that's the news from Lake Wobegon.
Speaking of grants, I forgot there is one grant that I generally don't keep track of that much, but it's called the DALMAC fund, and so it's a philanthropic fund that the money is raised by the Tri-County Bicycle Association. So this is more from the Lansing area, and so they do a tour every year that goes from Lansing up to Mackinac, and they raise funds as part of that. And so they have grants, and the grant requests are due March 1st, with final decisions being made May 15th of this year. So I'm going to send this URL to you. You can take a look at it, and if we have a project that we think fits in that area, maybe we can work behind the scenes to try and get a grant in before before the next meeting. That's the end of our agenda over here. Is there anything else anyone would like to discuss before we make a motion for adjournment? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second it.
Great, so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you, everyone. We close the meeting at 8:27 PM. Everyone walk, bike, drive safe.